Montreal, Ottawa, a march for the liberation of Kabyle political prisoners in Algeria. Kabyle activists recently organized 2 symbolic marches to denounce the injustices they face in Algeria. In Europe, 5 of them, joined by other compatriots, walked from Brest, France to Geneva, where they addressed the UN about the situation of Kabyle political prisoners. Meanwhile, in North America, a 200-kilometer march took place from Montreal to Ottawa, starting on September 21, 2024. This mobilization aims to demand the release of Kabyle political detainees in Algeria, among them Massanissa Lekahal, imprisoned due to his familial connections with Kabyle activist Amar Lakal.
These people in prison cannot express themselves. That's why we, who are abroad, have decided to be the voice of the voiceless.
One of the organizers of the march explained that this action seeks to amplify the voices of those unjustly incarcerated. The Kabyles, part of the larger Amazigh family, are fighting for the recognition of their culture and rights in a country where any aspiration for independence is considered an act of rebellion. An emblematic case that particularly moved the marchers is that of Massanissa Lekahal, a young Kabyle detained for political reasons. His imprisonment is seen as a punitive measure targeting his father, Amar Lekahal, a Canadian citizen and activist for the self-determination of Kabylia.
His brother, Saifex Lekahal, participated in the march, carrying the weight of this family injustice.
In 2021, amendments to the Algerian Penal Code allowed for the classification of any act deemed a threat to state security as terrorism.
This has led to an increased repression of dissenting voices. Anyone aspiring to the independence of Kabylia is labeled a terrorist.
Amnesty International has also condemned this vague definition, which is used to stifle peaceful dissent. The march's departure was marked by a rally outside Amnesty International's offices in Montreal, where participants expressed their solidarity and determination. Although only 2 marchers planned to complete the entire route, other members of the Kabylie community joined them at various points, illustrating the strength of their solidarity. This march also provided an opportunity to call on the Canadian government regarding the injustices faced by the Kabyles. A letter was drafted to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, urging intervention concerning human rights in Algeria. You'll now hear the content of this letter, read to you by activist Fatma Nsumer.
This is a letter that has been sent to the Prime Minister, Mr. Justin Trudeau. It was sent physically and electronically by members of the Kabylie community in Canada. I'm going to read you the letter that has been sent to the Prime Minister Trudeau. Dear Prime Minister, we Canadian citizens of Kabylie origins are constituted as a collective for the release of Kabylie detainees, and we are cornered to call on you by initiating a long walk from Montreal International Amnesty Office to Ottawa, Parliament Hill, by covering a 180-kilometer journey. In Kabylia, a grim milestone has been reached in terms of the most basic human rights. Currently, more than 500 Kabylie prisoners are incarcerated in Algerian prisons for exercising a universal right, freedom of expression. They're suffering torture, humiliation, and mistreatment daily. The most shocking fact is that some suffer sexual violence. Others, they poison them in their diet with small doses to kill them slowly. In addition, 38 death inmates are on death row, tried following an expeditious trial in which the right of defense is violated, for a crime orchestrated and perpetrated by the Algerian security forces. The families of detainees who dare to criticize this injustice are under pressure and intimidation from the Algerian criminal state. Thus, they even find themselves muzzled, isolated, even threatened. Beyond the unjust convictions in Kabylia, the Algerian military dictatorship condemned thousands of Kabyles to a forced exile, primarily for refusing to be silenced by speaking out against repression of the Kabyles and by denouncing the systematic racism of the Algerian state against the Kabyles. The most horrifying fact is that it burns them alive by triggering the scorched earth policy, since the repression of the Kabyles was not enough for it to subdue them. Thus, in the arsons it triggered in 2021 through 2024, more than 500 people lost their lives, leaving a devastated flora and fauna. For your information, what was behind and allowed this unprecedented repression was the adoption of Article 87 BIS of the Algerian Penal Code by presidential order on June 8, 2021. A broad and imprecise article incriminating terrorism, all dissent, any journalist, any human rights defender, or any political activist. The U.S. Department of State and Amnesty International have already condemned its promulgation and requested its repeal. Similarly, Radio Canada recently shed light on the aftermath of this article that affected Canadian citizens of Kabyle origins. Mr. Prime Minister, the Kabyles of Canada are deeply concerned about the abuses of the Algerian state in Kabylia, and we urge you in the name of the values of freedom, democracy, and the protection of human rights, which are dear to the Canadian people, to uphold Canada's international commitments and to plead for the release of Kabyle detainees by recalling the Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune of the international commitments that Algeria has signed and ratified in terms of respect of freedom of expression of the press and respect of human rights. Sincerely, Malika Absi, collective spokesperson.
The marchers finally arrived in Ottawa on September 28th, marking a significant moment for the Kabyle community and their allies. On this occasion, Ms. Tafet Ugafa, the Minister of Justice and a jurist of the Kabyle Human Rights League, delivered a speech to honor these activists and highlight their courage. Here is her speech.
On behalf of the Kabyle League of Human Rights, I want to commend the courage and determination of our peaceful activists who walked from Montreal to Ottawa to denounce the brutal repression inflicted by Algeria on Kabylia. But their march doesn't stop there. It's a clear and urgent call for the immediate and unconditional release of more than 500 innocent Kabyles, men and women, held hostages by a repressive regime. These individuals are languishing in Algerian prisons, stripped of their freedom, dignity, and most basic rights. This march, both symbolic and historic, resonates like a powerful cry from the Kabyle people. It carries the voice of our brothers and sisters unjustly imprisoned, torn from their families, tortured by an oppressive regime. As they march with determination, our activists give voice to those behind the bars, a voice that shouts against injustice, pain, and revolt. Yet this is not just the voice of the prisoners. It is the voice of an entire people who, facing oppression, have chosen to express their refusal through silence. This silence is not resignation. It is a quiet but powerful form of rebellion. Faced with a regime that won't listen, the Kabyle people know that silence can sometimes speak louder than protest. By refusing to take part in a sham election, the Kabyle people are saying no. No to a corrupt regime that seeks to control them. To their zero Kabyle, we oppose with our zero vote. This silent but outspoken march embodies the unwavering determination of our people. It is a total refusal to a system that oppresses, tortures, and destroys in the name of false national unity. Refusing to participate in Algeria's electoral farce is our way of denouncing injustice, violence, and corruption. Our silence is a powerful assertion of our stolen freedom. Our activists, armed with resilience and hope, do not walk alone. Each step echoes with the courage of our prisoners, the voice of Kabylia, and its relentless quest for freedom. Their march is an act of peaceful resistance, a shining demonstration that Kabylia will never bend, even in the face of the most ruthless brutality. This march goes far beyond a simple journey. It is a path towards liberation, a call for the recognition of our cause. Their commitment is a beacon of hope for those imprisoned, for those enduring repression, for all of Kabylia yearning for a better future. This march is the embodiment of a peaceful uprising, a symbol of a nation that will never surrender. Because it must be said, the silence of the Kabyle people is not emptiness. It is a powerful voice that demands justice and accountability. This silence is a force that can no longer be ignored. Let's make our voice heard. A voice from a historic march that brings hope, change and freedom to the world stage. This voice is not one of resignation, but of a living, peaceful rebellion. A voice that I trust will eventually tear down the walls of injustice and open the doors to a free and an independent future for the Kabyle people. Together, let us continue this peaceful struggle with the same resilience and determination, so that one day our imprisoned brothers and sisters would walk alongside us in freedom. Long live Kabylia, long live freedom, and may justice prevail.